Hi, my name is Diane Lulek. I'm an instructor here at the ceramics program, and I'm going to give you some basic tips on how to glaze. So the first thing that I would say is have a plan. Write some notes. Some people have a notebook and they draw little pictures in it. That helps because you want to keep track of what you're doing because you might forget later. Also, we have our cubic inch slips. There's a video about that. But I like to do my cubic inch slips before I glaze, so I'm not handling freshly glazed pieces and could run the risk of chipping them or smearing. So have everything ready. The setup that I like to use is a sponge, a bucket with this much water in it, that much water, a little cup in case you need to pour something, and for decorating, I'll show you some other things that we will touch on later: a brush, a stamp, some water. So, and microfiber to dry your hands because you don't want to be touching your freshly glazed pieces with dirty hands. This is what we call a carpet square, even though it's rectangle. This is for cleaning your pieces when you're done glazing. And to prepare this, just get it a little bit wet like this. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a glaze bucket. And this is how you move a glaze bucket. 2 hands. Slowly. 2 hands. When you take your glaze bucket lid off, the lid goes on the table. And then you stir the glaze. So be careful, sometimes they're full. And we do adjust the water weekly to make sure that they are the right consistency for dipping and pouring. So I like to advise to stir it 50 times, and that's less than a minute. Okay, tap, 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 and store the brush up here. You don't want to leave it in the bucket while you're dipping. And then, wash your hands. The pieces that we glaze, everybody makes the thing differently, but in order to keep the glaze from running onto the kiln shelves, I'm going to show you how to determine where to glaze to or wipe back to. So there are different sorts of feet. This is a carved foot. If you look here, there's a tiny little bevel here. I like to put a big bevel on because then that's where you wipe to. It's very helpful. This one does not have a bevel, nor this one does. See the bevel on there? That's helpful because when you use the carpet square, it wipes up to the bevel. If there's no mark and no bevel, what I like to do is take a pencil, put it on the table, and mark around right like this. Now I know that's where I need to wipe back to. The pencil will burn off in the kiln. You won't see it. Matter of fact, when I wipe down, you won't even see it. It will wipe off. So that gives you an idea of how far back you need to wipe, because the last thing we want is glaze on our shelves. So getting your pieces ready to dip, I'm going to show a few methods, but always wipe off the piece with clean water and a sponge. You don't have to get it soaking wet, you just have to wipe off the ambient dust and open up the pores. And it also helps your piece absorb glaze. If I didn't and I put it in sideways, this would absorb more than this because it would be in longer. So it helps for even absorption. And you can still see my pencil mark. And I'm doing 3 different types of things just to give you an idea of how to grip them when you dip them. So knowing that you are going to glaze your pieces and that you need to be aware of how to glaze the base, think about that when you're trimming. So we do not store things on the carpet like this. The carpet is wet and it'll absorb water from the bottom, and the glaze won't absorb evenly into your piece if it's wet. So don't store things on here. So I have my bucket here. It's been stirred. The lid and the brush are over on the table. There are several ways to hold your pieces. Now this one has a tiny little foot, so there's not enough for me to grab. One way that I like to hold is like this, so that I can put it down. I can dip and I can put it down. So I can dip, I can put it down. For a bigger piece, I can hold it, I can dip, and I can put it down. There are some people who dip this way. There are times where you might want to put a different glaze on the inside and then just dip the outside. I'm not showing that now, I'm going really basic. So I'm going to start with this piece. I have a good grip on it, I'm not going to drop it. This has been stirred, and I'm going to swoop in and pour out. I'm not going to go in and hold and dump because that's too much glaze. So I'm going to swoop in and pour out. So going in, swoop in, 1, 2, 3, out. Shake, shake, shake. Then I'm going to put it down, and there's a little spot where my finger was, so I'm going to go drip, drip, drip. Don't worry about your hands being in there. As long as you wash them right away. Don't lick your fingers. Always washing my hands. So you notice I have 1 bucket. If there's a lot of people in here, it's good to just do 1 bucket at a time. That way you don't mix up the lids, you don't mix up the stirrers, you don't mix up what you're doing. I'm going to do a few because I'm going to show you some decorating techniques as well. So I'm going to go grab it. In, swoop in, 1, 2, 3, out, shake, shake, shake. And then, dip, dip, dip. I know from looking at the glazed wall that this is a shiny glaze. And any of these drip backs or any of these things, they'll melt down and you won't even see them. On some of the satiny glazes or the matte glazes, you might see the drip back. I personally think it's kind of interesting. So you can decide if you like that or not. So you can tell when they're dry, when the color lightens up and they're not tacky to the touch. So what I'm going to do is and you saw I washed and dried my hands before I touch it. I'm going to clean this on the carpet square. And I still need to do a little bit more, because you'll see that that's not quite enough. For this piece, I will wipe, and do you see how I'm holding it perpendicular to the ground? If I did this and the sponge was wet, it would put water all the way over my piece. I don't want that. So I'm gonna very carefully wipe back this foot. You need at least 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. And this is a very low foot, so I'm gonna clean the whole inside. Another reason to clean off the inside of your foot is so that you can see your signature, so when the piece comes out of the kiln, you know what's yours. Because sometimes you forget. Or it changes so much in the kiln, you don't even know which one's yours. And also, it will shrink. Sometimes 15%. So you'll be like, oh, I made this big mug. No, you didn't. It's little now. So once this is wiped clean, and you get all that glaze from the inside, you don't put it back down on the carpet square, because then it would get wet and the glaze would peel off. So we're going to put that over there, and I'll show you. This one's a little different. See how much glaze sticks on it once it comes out of the bucket? But I'm going to rub this on my carpet square, and there we go. Now, this is a little bit of an indent, but not enough to go unwiped. So I will wipe all of that off. And this piece did have a bevel, So I'm going to wipe to the bevel. Once again, perpendicular so that I don't get water all over the piece. Now you'll see, sometimes handles, the glaze will run down like this and thicken up at the bottom. It could jump over here and get onto the kiln shelf, so sometimes I just take that off because I don't want it to build up too much and run onto the kiln shelf. So there's that. Okay, now I have two pieces. I'm going to move the carpet square out of the way because they're done being wiped, and I'm going to show you some decorating techniques. So this is Alpine White, and I have taken the Peter's Black, stirred it 50 times, and put some in this little container here. And I'm going to show you a couple of things. I'm going to show you brushing and stamping. We have these foam stamps from Paul Wasatsky, and they're wonderful. So let me show you. Take a brush, and I like to practice first on some newspaper. Because we're not all brush masters. But if you wanted to, I find there are different brush strokes. There's this, a static brush stroke. There's a swipe brush stroke. See how it goes thick and thin? There, you can do shapes. You can pretend you can do trees or bamboo or whatever. And this is a great way to practice so that by the time you get to your piece, you can feel like you're a pro. And I gotta stir it because even as it's sitting on the table, it is settling a little bit. They're made of minerals and they're heavier than water. So I'm just gonna show you a couple of, we can make circles. We can make brushes, flowers, whatever. Make a flower. Or you can just make patterns, however you like. So this is a tried and true. It comes out looking like a cobalt blue on a shiny white. It's lovely. There are various combinations that as you learn glazing in your class, as you talk to your fellow students, you'll learn combinations that work well. Sometimes you can take a piece that you've made for a sample and try brushing all the different glazes on it, and then you'll know. Here is the rubber stamp. What we do with these is I'm using clean water. First you get it wet and practice stamping. So get it wet, squeeze it out. And pretty much you only have to get it wet once. Unless you are using two glazes, then you need to wash it. So I put it on there, I wipe it on the edge, and practice on my newspaper. So I can get, if you have a light coat, you'll get this texture in there. If you want a little bit heavier, you can rock it. So I'm going to show you on the piece. So you can do several, and I kind of like the way it looks when it's just a hint, or you can dip it every time. You can repeat, make patterns. It's pretty cool. So maybe you made a mistake and you don't like it. Instead of going to dip it in the barrel and accidentally dropping it in there and then your piece is gone and soaking wet, what I like to do is carve off the glaze like this. It's still damp, it's not so powdery. So after you have done this on your whole piece and on the inside too, sometimes you want to use a curved rib. You have to get it off the inside. This can go in the trash can or wrapped up in a piece of newspaper, and then like a burrito, and put it in the trash can. That way, after you've done the whole thing, it's a lot easier to wipe it off. Then your piece isn't quite so soaking wet. You do have to dry this back on the bisque shelf for at least a day before you glaze it again, because it will be too wet to absorb the correct amount of glaze. Sometimes accidents happen. You might be dipping and you might, oops, drop it in there. What do? Well, if the bucket's not too full, you can stick your hand in there and fish it out. Or you can go in there and get it with the tongs. It's got way too much glaze on it. Would not be good to put in the kiln, look at that. So while it's wet, I'm just gonna wipe it off. And rinse your sponge in your bucket. Some people go over to our bucket rinse system and stand over there. That'll make a lineup and it'll hurt your back. So this is a lot faster. Just gonna get all of this off of here. This piece will be too wet to be reglazed, so you need to put it back on your bisque shelf for at least a day. Otherwise, it won't absorb the correct amount of glaze. Now it's clean on the inside, and I'm going to go over the outside again to get the part where it's thick around the foot. Now, wet bisque is a little fragile, so be very careful. You could snap it. Sometimes people will drop a piece in the bucket and it will break, and there will be chunks of bisque at the bottom of the bucket. Please fish them out. If you can't do it with the tongs, we have a strainer with holes in it. You can go fishing with that. Now this piece is ready to go back on the shelf to be glazed another day. Okay. Clean up. We're all done glazing, we're gonna clean up. So brush goes back into the bucket, lid goes back on, and we're gonna bring this bucket back to where it lives. These are alphabetical, remember? And there we go, okay? I'm gonna clean off all the tools that I used with my sponge and rinse it in my bucket. Everything's clean. This is the first clean. The bucket's got dirty water in it. That's okay. It's just the first clean. I'm going to take everything over to the sink. So we have a 3-bucket rinse system. The first bucket gets the dirtiest water. So I'm going to dump this right in here. And you'll see at the bottom of the bucket, there's residual glaze as well, because I wiped off that big heavy glaze piece that I dropped in the bucket. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to give it a good rinse. Then I'm going to put it in the second bucket for yet another rinse. And my sponge as well. The third rinse bucket, sink right here. Make sure you get it that's all the glaze. And then you get to use a sprayer. Now, I would put my bucket up there, but I'm not done cleaning. So I give myself an inch of water, take my sponge, and the sink's dirty. So what do? I'm a good citizen. I'm gonna wipe it. And this can go back in here because it's clean. My carpet's square. This cup is clean. My second clean rinse. That can go away. And then this is how you clean a carpet square. You don't dip it in there, you don't dip it in there, you don't dip it in here. If you notice what happens to the back when you dip it, it falls apart. So what we do is we send it over here and give it a rinse this way. so it runs into the sink, and then hang it up here to drip dry. Okay? Wipe down the table and all the mess you made. And go over it with a microfiber, because all this white dust on here that you can see on the table, the microfiber will take care of that. Okay. And I dripped all over the floor. So I'm going to take the mop, take care of that. Then you rinse your mop head in the water. Drain it and give a little squeeze, just a little squeeze. There we go. And I put this away. I didn't get it too dirty. I'm just going to hang it to dry. Put the abrasives. And there we go. This is what happens when you don't use our bucket rinse system. If you look at the sink, you'll see that's what's in the sink. That could go down the drain and get stuck in our trap, and then we'll have a clog, and then we'll have to call a plumber. This belongs in here, because these get drained, and then that muck at the bottom, we collect it and we put it in these barrels, and it gets taken away, and we pay for that. Here is where we empty our bucket rinse system into here, and you can see in here the heavy metals from our glaze making, from the chemistry in our glazes. We need to keep it out of our water system. It is not healthy, and we will get fined if it gets into our drains and gets clogged, and they will test it and they will find it. Say you find a glaze and you think it's too thick and it flows on your piece kind of globby. Don't add water to it. Ask a staff member to take care of it. We have a glaze team we check the water weekly, and we will make sure it's right for you. If you accidentally knock over a bucket and there's a spill on the floor, we have a protocol for that too, because we can actually save the glaze. They're very expensive. So tell a staff member, don't try and clean it up with a mop. We have another way. It happens. Don't feel bad. It happens. But good luck.